Raanan is fat and he's a Jew. He'll tell you something that you already knew. Your favorite movie sucks. Your favorite movie sucks. American Beauty or Forrest Gump. Your favorite movie sucks.
We are back with another episode of Your Favorite Movie Sucks. We have first-time guests. I mean, I guess every time I have an episode, it's a first-time guest. I've had like 8 episodes.
Yeah, right.
It'd be crazy if I had a return guest already. That'd be pretty lazy. But Robbie Goodwin, comedian, roaster. You roast.
Yeah,
You're
I'm
a big
right.
roaster, right?
Mm-hmm, yeah.
And yeah, he asked to do the pod. He was like, I'd love to do the pod sometime. I'm like, can you come on next week? I was like, just like,
Hey, that's how I run so many podcasts.
Yeah.
I know booking is such a pain, and I'm like,
I want more people to ask because I'm asking people, and like, I just happen to, I just book really late anyway, so that worked out.
Yeah, awesome.
This is a great way of bringing you up. He just asked to do it, and that's his.
I saw him on the
We
street.
got a big guest here. He asked. His credit is that he asked to do it.
One time, Joe Gorman, my former podcast host, we were at the Punchline and he was hosting, and he brought me up. He literally introduced me like, this guy, I just ran into him on the street and he asked me for a shot, and I said, all right, let's see how it goes. And the audience believed him.
I hate that shit.
So
I hate when they do fucking mock intros. It always fucks your shit up.
Yeah, I had to like dig myself out of a hole for like 2 minutes because they literally just thought I was some guy.
One time,
Which I am, but
one time it was years ago. I had my first credit. It was like it was like Laughs on Fox. I don't know.
oh yeah, I remember that.
And I was excited to have a credit, so they didn't just have to say he does colleges and clubs all across.
Oh, yeah,
So I
yeah.
told the guy, I was like, you can say Laughs on Fox. It was some like bar in Kentucky, and the guy went on stage and went, "This next comedian wants you to know he was on Laughs on Fox."
He wants you to know.
I was like, that is.
Oh my god, yeah. Well, cause that's the other thing is like when you're because I used to really not like when people say, "What do you want me to say to bring you up?" Because I was probably just embarrassed I didn't really have credits.
Right.
But then I started hosting a weekly show, and it was like, I can't research everyone's credits, and I'm going to offend someone.
Yeah, when you don't have credits, you're just like, just say, whatever, as if you have all these credits to choose from.
The internet, yeah, Amazon
Just say, who
Prime.
knows? You always got to act like you can't. You have so many, it's hard. Whatever you want to say.
The only guy, because I would ask a lot, and everyone would be like, you can. The only guy who gave me Dan St. Germain was like, say Late Night with Jimmy Fallon, True TV, like he had them ready to go.
Yeah, some people have it ready to go. But we can't do too much banter. They get mad. They get very mad. I think we hit our banter mark. We banter. They're like, shut the fuck up. Talk about the movies. And I'm like, I just do what they say.
Yeah.
I'm like a little bitch for my YouTube fans.
Well, this is how people turn to right wing grifters. They just listen to too
They
many
just banter.
comments.
Yeah.
Oh, I'm a liptard, I guess. All right. Well, I'll just do what that guy says.
When the money comes in, yeah. So you are here to discuss. I mean, this is it's not just a favorite movie, but it's a movie that for me and I think many people defines their identity.
Yeah.
If that's is Annie Hall.
Yeah, Annie Hall.
Which is I mean, I haven't. This movie was like one of my. It's even hard to talk about. It's like talking about Annie Hall is like talking about me. I just feel like it shaped who I am.
And it's like because when I said, I was almost like when you said, because you asked for my favorites and you said Annie Hall, and I was a little afraid it wouldn't hold up because it meant so much to me in like high school and then college, and I haven't really watched it much since then. And it's funny, I watched it. It was different. And it did make me cringe in some parts, but more so because I like saw parts of myself in that.
Right.
And when I was like a kid, I was like, oh, that guy's cool. And I'm like, what a fucking dork.
Yeah. It is really interesting to watch now. Especially for me. I mean, like, it's just like also being in this kind of committed relationship I'm in right now and watching him, I feel like I've gone beyond his intimacy issues.
Interesting.
And so it's kind of an interesting watch for me. I mean, I still think it's amazing. And
yeah.
I mean, it's not really the thing about Woody Allen. I mean, like that. It's not dated. It's like
No.
it's like. I mean, I guess the part where Max says I was with twins.
16-year-olds. 16-year-olds.
By the way, is statutory rape not a thing back then? I don't understand.
It was fast and loose, I think,
Because in Raging Bull, he goes to jail, remember?
Yeah.
And he's like fucking like I thought it was a 16-year-old.
Right.
I guess he got caught. I guess that's the difference.
Well, One Flew Over the Cuckoo's Nest, remember Nicholson's like, she was 13 going on 30.
Right.
It's like, what a charming pedophile.
I remember when
this
I
man
watched
is.
that. Yeah, that moment is crazy. You know what I mean? And then and then you're supposed to think the other guy's square.
Yeah.
Look at this nerd all shocked by him.
I have a theory that in between the sexual revolution, like the free 60s and like the feminist revolution of like the late 70s, 80s, I think people are like, yeah, it's sexually free to fuck 15-year-olds.
That was like for a little bit, and then that kind of brought in the new feminism.
I think it was more so like, all right, the squares had it right about something.
Yeah, like sexual revolution, and then rock stars just fuck 12-year-olds.
Exactly. That's like every 70s rock
John
star.
Bottom just putting a shark up a 12-year-old girl's pussy, and then they were like, I think we might have gone a little too far with this free love.
Let's reel it back in and get Reagan in charge.
Yeah, and then you got the more like angry feminists.
Yes, which made the pendulum just keep swinging.
Yeah, and we're like, no one's fucking you anyway. You weren't even part of this dialogue. It is bizarre. I mean, like that part's bizarre because it's like and obviously it's at the end. If you haven't seen, his friend is just mad. You have to call him in jail. We go through the whole movie, but I always go all over the place. His friend has to get him to come get him out of jail, and he's like, I heard those voices. I'm sorry if I had to like interrupt you. And he said, twins. 16. Which, first of all, outside the age, it's kind of gross that there's incestuous twins.
Incestuous underage girls.
Yeah.
By the way, in California, where the age has been 18 forever, like what he couldn't even do is he's like, look, it's 17 in New York. It's not that bad.
I looked it up. Now I was like curious what the ages are for different places, and now I'm on a registry because I looked it up. But
like every man has. I just want to see the culture. It's cultural difference.
I just think it was like, obviously that's statutory rape, and people saw that movie in the 70s. They didn't just go, that guy's a pedophile.
No.
They gave the movie like 12 Academy Awards. So,
oh, yeah.
So are we even allowed to say this? But as culture, I mean, obviously it was still bad back then, but like definitely social acceptance of it was.
Social acceptance was fine of that kind of. Everyone's like, oh, he's just a Lothario, like Quagmire, like you know, or the Opie and Anthony. They had like a countdown clock to when they turned 18. It's like, what the fuck?
It just was what it is. I mean, like I don't know. It's like. I mean, you know, and obviously there's clearly like this a lot of guys, a lot of cultures pedophile adjacent. You know what I mean? Britney Spears is in like a schoolgirl outfit.
Right.
That is a schoolgirl outfit.
Oh, absolutely.
She is trying to look like she's underage.
If you watch that video, that it is great. Like the aughts was the second 70s in a lot of ways.
Yeah. No, we were definitely like it's not like people are like clearly that's something what someone wants on some level.
Right.
Maybe not actually be that age.
Well, when I was like 12, I was like, wow, that's hot because I was 12.
Right. But so were the 50-year-olds.
Whatever Dan Schneider was directing that fucking video. Yeah.
Which, by the way, Andy Hall, literally, his first line is an unconsented kiss to a 6-year-old girl. Which really yeah. A reoccurring motif.
Oh, I was the first guy to get horny when I was 6.
So that whole thing is bizarre. But obviously society was different because Manhattan, he's fucking dating a 17-year-old, and he's acting like he's like, what am I doing with her? What am I? It's like you picked her.
Yeah.
He's literally fucking a child, and be like, why am I? What am I crazy?
Yeah, Manhattan was never one of my favorite. I was never a Manhattan guy, and when he said, "Can we do Manhattan?" I was like, no, because I thought that was a creepy movie.
It does not. It's that one's hard to like.
The first scene is awesome, and the last scene is pretty good too. But like everything in between, it is hard to just buy into the premise.
It's literally the premise is about a guy who loses sight, who learns too late that he did not appreciate this underage child he was with, and that's like the ending. He's like, oh fuck, she was the love of my life.
Yeah.
It's like a pedophile's romantic comedy.
Right.
It's like, oh, I should have been with her, not old cougar dying.
Disgusting Meryl Streep.
But Annie Hall is one that you can kind of like. Definitely ignore a lot of the fucked up shit with Woody Allen.
It's more universal too.
Yeah,
I think the reason it's so popular, although my mom always hated it for some reason. I don't know. I think because she just hated that character so much, which are you
Jewish?
No, but my stepdad was Jewish, and I like how
I feel like if your mom hated that, that's
she hated that
anti-Semitism, right? Isn't it?
Or maybe she was just.
Did she also find Larry David annoying and Jerry Seinfeld?
She was probably just like, I fucked that guy. He sucks.
Yeah, I mean he's. I get that, and it is a movie that like. it is the most influential movie in terms of, I think, the way people view relationships. Not everyone, but a certain group of people. I see women too. I think women idealize this idea of having like a neurotic Jew in New York. You know what I mean?
The trope has been done so many times. It's actually crazy. It's not dated. Like that kind of guy, like when Harry Met Sally is doing Annie Hall.
But it's all everyone's doing Annie Hall. Annie Hall is basically like has influenced so many romantic comedies, even though it's not a romantic comedy.
Right, yeah.
It's a romantic tragedy.
It's really funny.
I mean, it's hilarious.
It's so funny.
It's too funny to be a romantic comedy.
Right.
For a romantic comedy to work, it can't be too funny.
Yeah.
Well, first of all, it also doesn't have a happy ending.
No, I think it is a romantic comedy, but it's like the best one.
The best one.
That and Harry Met Sally are probably the two best ones.
I mean, watching it again, every scene is so inventive.
Yeah.
This is going to sound pretentious, but whatever. It feels like watching the Citizen Kane of romantic comedy. Like when you watch Citizen Kane, every scene is done in a new, exciting, inventive way. And that's what this movie feels like. That it's just like every scene is done in this cool, imaginative like concept.
Oh yeah, it's kind of like The Godfather. Now we're gonna. I'm sure we'll criticize Woody Allen a lot too, but right now I'm gonna suck him off. But like, it's kind of like The Godfather to me, where like every single scene is iconic, or like, or at least interesting or funny or something. Like, I watched the whole thing the whole time. I didn't like get bored or go on my phone at all again. And it's like, oh no, it's just a great watch.
It is crazy. It's not boring. It's not. It has no story, and yet like it is stream of conscious. Like literally, like it's basically like experimental, except that it just happens to be really funny. It's like the funniest experimental movie.
Yeah, it's a little surreal. Like you're not sure what's real and what's not. That's what I like about it too. It's like. He, from the beginning, is like, I'm an unreliable narrator, and maybe this isn't as...
Well, it feels like what happened was, and it's an interesting movie, too, because I don't know if you know the backstory, but a lot of it was kind of made in the editing room. So it wasn't even a deliberate... There was a murder mystery subplot. There was all these...
What?
Yeah, I'm serious.
Whoa.
And the movie was kind of made... I mean, they had all this stuff, obviously.
Right.
But a lot of test screenings, reshoots, made in the editing room. The Diane Keaton part was only one part of a much bigger thing.
Wow.
That was like a huge mess. And in the editing, they found the story. And if you look at it that way, it's kind of this magical movie where like nothing... that planned could have happened like that.
Yeah.
But through this kind of editing, it creates a stream of conscious vibe.
Yeah.
Because it is an experimental.
That's crazy. I didn't know that.
Yeah, and it is an experimental narrative. I mean, yes, obviously it's about a relationship.
Right.
But like so much of the movie is just going like back in time.
Yeah.
It's never really. It's only linear for a very little bit of it.
Right.
Know?
But you know what's awesome about it is that you can always tell what stage of the relationship they're in.
Right.
You never get, which is like, it's such a subtle thing. And maybe because of these reshoots, I don't know, but maybe because it was such a long process, maybe it did feel like a long period of time passed
10 months.
In between. Yeah.
10 months of shooting.
Yeah, that's a relationship. That's how long a lot of relationships last.
That's a long amount of shooting. And I mean, apparently even I read that like even the last line, Woody Allen kind of had the idea to say that right before test screening. They like put it in right before.
Whoa.
This movie is like, the creation of it is wild, and it comes at it really is magic in a bottle because I actually don't know if Woody Allen. I mean, he's made some good movies after that, some great movies, but nothing.
I would say no bad movies.
I disagree with that, but but like this movie to me is just it's okay. First of all, to talk about it in context, so it's this middle ground. You have these earlier movies which are essentially hilarious spoofs, not really. Hilarious. All of them are fucking great. I love them.
Which is a lot of comedy movies do not hold up at all. So it is crazy how much his comedy holds up.
His stuff all holds up.
It's crazy. Which is really that is very rare.
Yeah, it's just all fucking. It's just his jokes are always just fucking. I mean, it's not like every one-liners like holds up, but just the vibe of it holds up, and it's just so. I mean, so many fucking great lines.
Yeah.
What was your grandma? Your grandma's name Mammy? Oh, my grandma was too busy getting raped by the Cossacks. It's just like one of the greatest fucking lines. And so you had these comedies, and they're all my sleep's all over the place here. They're all very, very good. And it culminated in what I think is greatest pre-Annie Hall comedy, Love and Death, which is hilarious.
That's a good one.
I mean, like, if you love Naked Gun, you know, it has the same kind of sensibility. I mean, with like existential stuff in Russian literature. Hilarious fucking movie. And it does deal a little more with philosophical themes. Obviously, it's spoofing them, but it starts to get into his, obsession with death as a parody of a Russian literature. And then from there, he wanted to go a little deeper, and he made this movie. And this movie got so many awards. I think afterwards he wanted to like make a lot of serious movies. Yeah. And this was the perfect blend, the perfect tragicomic blend. And the problem with later movies is that I've said this before. Joe List hates when I say this, but he is not a great realistic dialogue writer. He just isn't. His later movies, there's a lot of showing. I mean, a lot of telling, not showing. A lot of people speak almost like the dialogue in a Bergman film, like the subtitles. Right. This movie, because it's in between real and sketch, it has this perfect blend.
Yeah. I actually, that's kind of a good take. All of his, because I did watch Vicky Cristina Barcelona with my now ex, and
it's bad dialogue.
She was like, "This is terrible." And I was like, "Wow, I can't believe."
Even his good movies have even when Hannah and her sisters.
Oh, that's a great one though.
There's great moments, but there is so much bad dialogue. There's so much. You know, when you learn screenwriting, a big thing is to not just tell what the characters are, but to show it. Right. Now, obviously, these are all like pseudo-intellectuals and stuff, or intellectuals, but you still have scenes like when Hannah and her sisters, where Max von Sydow's like, I'm isolated, and and I'm trying to bring you. He's just explaining their emotional conditions.
Yeah, he does. He's much better, but it is a little like of that Kevin Smith thing where like every character talks like Kevin Smith.
Yes, which can be bad, and I can
actually really fucking hate that, but with Woody, it works for me, whatever reason.
I think it works when there's humor. The minute he tried to cast off humor, I do not think any of his stuff without humor is that interesting.
What are some of his without humor? I liked Another Woman I just watched. I enjoy. It wasn't great, but I did enjoy it.
I just think his dialogue sucks. I really I think it's bad. It's never.
He did try to do Bergman, yeah.
It's never specific. It's never like natural. It's just I don't know. It's just subtitly dialogue.
He is best when there's a mix, for sure. I think.
That's what I think. I think I think this is that perfect blend.
Right.
You know?
Yeah, I agree.
And it was interesting to watch now from being in a relationship.
Oh, Blue Jasmine, I think, is great.
Fuck that movie. I hate that movie. She's like works at a fucking. She like puts. She's like a grocer. She like fills in grocery bags at like a store, and she has like a giant apartment.
In San Francisco. Yeah, I just know those ladies. That's the thing is, I'm from the Bay Area, and those ladies. That's just like a lot.
Work at a supermarket, and they can afford such.
Okay,
place.
Yes, of course, but that's like that's the same shit as like fucking Friends, right, or Seinfeld.
Well, I mean, but at least those are trying to be funny.
I agree.
Blue Jasmine is just trying to show,
But like, what is Woody Allen and what is it? How do they afford those apartments in New York? You know what I mean?
Well, at least he's actually a very successful comedian.
That's true. I
mean, it was.
But she has like a beautiful loft.
But to be fair,
stuff.
that was the 70s.
That's true.
Blue Jasmine is not the 70s.
$400. You pay $400 a month for that place?
Blue Jasmine is like modern time San Francisco.
Yeah, there is, but all of his movies, especially his best ones, there is like a little like lifestyle porn element of like, oh, I wish I could live in a world where everyone was smart and like rich and interesting.
I was saying this to Caleb Palouf for talking about romantic comedies and like how like this romantic view of New York. He creates a romantic view of New York that to create that he has to just remove all homeless people. That's essentially what he has to do. Like all homeless people are not in the movie.
I lived in Coney Island. I never saw a black person in my entire life.
There's literally, according to Woody Allen, there's no black people in New York City. Like it's crazy. I mean, like so that's
the only minorities were Jews and Italians.
Yeah, like everyone is Jewish.
There's an off-screen maid who steals from the mob,
which is hilarious because it's like Jews, a lot of Jews live in New York. They're still a minority.
Yeah,
it's still not all Jews.
Yeah.
But so the movie
it shoots New York. That's what's also great about it is it shoots New York beautifully, and it kind of like
which is removing homeless people. Homeless people fuck with the framing
true.
of a shot,
especially in the 70s. Yeah. It's like Taxi Driver was what it was actually
exactly.
Like.
The Manhattan Poster would not have been as good as a guy was jacking off next to the bench.
Yeah.
I use that in another episode. Now the audience is gonna be like, you're just repeat. They're just gonna see me repeat jokes, but I guess they'd be a pretty big fan.
They're probably Mark Norman fans. They've seen that before.
Yeah.
But that's what I'm saying. Is like I think all of his best movies kind of are like they're in a dreamy, not a dream world, but like it's like a little lifestyle porn where it's like,
yeah.
Because I don't know if these places exist, I don't know if they do, where it's just like everyone talks like a professor and they go to the best parties with all these beautiful people. Like intellectuals are not hot usually. They're like very like not. They don't look like that. I don't know, in my experience at least.
Well, it's also hard to understand. Like everyone is so dumb now.
Right.
It's hard to also understand like. The most dated thing about this movie is that a college show is really good. Like he goes to college.
I love college audiences.
And, yeah, that is the most dated part when he says, "I love college audiences," and the fact that they all just sit there. And like when he goes on stage, it takes him like 45 seconds to get to the punchline.
Right.
That would not have. They would have just been on their phones.
Phones immediately. And my other favorite part is like, I don't want to follow a comedian.
Yeah, I know.
I want to go up cold.
I was like, it was so much easier to be a comic back then.
I know.
You didn't have to follow comedians. The idea that he's complaining about following a comedian,
even where someone's warming them up, it sounds like
it's like there was like 12 comics back then.
Just being a comedian was enough to like.
That's insane. But anyway, let's go through the movie because I do want to talk also about like my relationship issues, or my level of intimacy watching it now as someone who's about to get married.
Yeah.
Well, first of all, back in the day when I used to love Annie Hall, I never would have imagined I'd be with a woman who she falls asleep during the movie as what happened last night, and then I'm still with her.
Nice.
Like
yeah,
back in the day, I would have been like, that's a no. But like
that's such middle school. I had the same fucking brain where I was like, I need a girlfriend that likes all the movies I like, and all the TV shows I like, and those are the coolest girls. It's like, no, usually those girls are kind of like evil.
Right,
like,
right. But also pick me girls are just trying to create
exactly, pick me girls.
But also it's like watching that and being okay with my girlfriend falling asleep and being on her phone a couple of times. I mean, it did test a relationship. But
girls do be loving being on their phone. That's why they love Hulu. Girls love Hulu because you can just have your phone out the whole time.
Yeah.
In reality TV, you can have your phone out the whole fucking time.
Thank God she does not watch reality TV. I don't know if I could survive that. Though she watches Top Chef and sometimes there's drama on it.
Yeah.
I'm like, this is trash.
I thought that, but then I did get sucked into Vanderpump Rules a little bit. I'll be honest. But I agree with you in a sense because like when I was I think I first watched it in maybe high school. I want to say middle school, pretty young, and like I was like, oh my God, I really wish I could have a girlfriend like Annie Hall, that kind of thing. And now as I rewatched it with more life experience, I'm like, fuck, getting her heartbroken like that just fucking blows so bad.
Right.
And I still want to fuck Annie Hall, don't get me wrong. She's like, you know what's great about her is you fall in love with her when you watch this movie. Like for something
I find
about
her very unattractive.
Oh, really? I love her.
The whole movie, I'm like, is this what people found attractive in the 70s?
I like it.
That's the part I actually don't. I mean, obviously it's one of my favorite movies, but,
right? And
honestly, I think maybe it's the reason she's such a great character. Is that she's not like really that. I don't know. I find her.
That's what's great. She's kind of like aloof, but it's like she's not like like a lot of movies have copied her. Like fucking Garden State copied her with Natalie Portman. Like a lot of girls still try to dress like Annie Hall all the time.
Yes, she but this is different. She did create a hipster aesthetic, but I would say she is not herself aloof. Because the first time they meet, she comes on to him.
Right.
She's actually very desperate. She comes on to him, and her whole calendar's empty.
Right.
She's actually kind of a loser.
Right. Yeah.
Who's just like very like she creates her own style, but
I think that's I really want to date a hot loser. I think I really sounds really good.
I think
to
that
me.
aloof stuff comes from there's like confidence there. She's actually very insecure. It is. I do think hotter like women have taken her aesthetic,
right?
But that aesthetic is now associated with someone who's like flighty, aloof. You can't pin her down. Everyone falls in love with her.
Right.
But Diane Keaton's actually open and like emotionally vulnerable.
Yeah, that's
in a way
true.
That it's almost like colder women have copied her aesthetic.
Right. She's so warm. I think that is what I love about her. She's so authentic and warm and like.
Yeah, exactly. She's very like, and he plays it cool in their first meeting.
Yeah.
But it was interesting watching accepting the fact that my girlfriend's going to fall asleep during it. Because it's like, I am no longer the Woody Allen in the movie who just takes his girlfriend to sorrow and pity over and over again. And I realized in a relationship, you do have to make compromises.
Yes.
And he makes none.
That was my thing too, because when I was a kid, I was like, this guy's really cool. But now as an adult, I'm like, this guy's kind of a dickhead for not making compromises, as you said.
Well, what happens in the movie, which is kind of weird, is that like, and once again, one of the funniest movies of all time. But I will say, what makes it a little interesting from a different perspective is that there is a point where he kind of says the theme of the movie is like sometimes love just
Fades.
happens and fades.
Right.
But I'm watching it go, no.
You ruined this relationship. So that's why I wanted to, when I was rewatching it, the main thing I wanted to like, how aware is he that he's being a dickhead? Like, how aware, like, is this a, you know how like Ricky Gervais in The Office, he obviously wrote an unlikable character, but it's like at a certain point you're like, was he in on the joke? You know?
I think in The Office definitely he's on the joke. I don't think he's exactly in on. I mean, you can still watch him from that perspective, and maybe who knows? But like, I definitely think like. He certainly does not come to that revelation at any point.
He doesn't think that maybe I fucked up.
Yeah.
Love just
and I don't know if the movie ever has a hint of that's what the movie's about. Like, I don't even, it's not really evident in the movie.
I can't tell. I really hope so, because if it really is just a guy writing about how awesome he is and how he's so much smarter than everyone,
I don't think it's,
then I'm like, I don't know if I relate to this as much anymore.
I don't think it's that he's writing I think he's writing about how like love is this thing that just kind of fades.
Right.
It's almost like he's trying to be like, this depressing, like love is beautiful, but then it inevitably fades.
Mm-hmm.
I actually do think, I mean, look, like, one could make the case that like, no, this is an examination of someone who can't change.
Right.
But I don't think that's what the movie's going for. I think the movie's going for relationships are this ephemeral thing.
Yeah.
And sometimes they fade and it's really sad, but at least you had because at the end, the theme is pretty stated, like you need the eggs.
Yeah.
He's saying that you need the illusion that a relationship can work out.
Right.
But I would say maybe you need the reality wake-up call that you have to actually grow and change.
Yeah.
And maybe not just make her into your image.
Yeah. He was like, you can't smoke. Like, he was like, why do you have to smoke weed all the time?
Right.
It's like, aren't you on like fucking Prozac and
right.
stuff? It's like, I don't know why. That felt like very. But I'm like, but he has to know he's coming off unlikable there. I really cannot tell.
No, I think he's being himself. I mean, I don't think he's like.
He's just being authentic and showing everything about him.
And then he is trying to keep her in his own little private world, and she's breaking away.
Mm-hmm.
You know, I mean, that's obviously a part of it. But like, I do think like it's maybe a movie about someone who doesn't fully understand how a relationship works, but maybe the actual person who made the movie, not just the character.
Right.
Like maybe the actual, and I'd say based on the things he's done in his life, we can attest to the fact that he might have an inability to really connect with people.
He might actually have a Kanye disease, speaking of Jews, because like where he comes off way somehow more self-aware in his music and expressing himself than he does in like his because Kanye in his music sometimes he's obviously
never heard
like
his music because it's just like I got to get rid of this anti-Semitism and realize and to take accountability.
Well, he does. Well, he talks about how he's like a douchebag and he has all these stuff. He's like all these self-hate stuff about himself, and it's like the guy who wrote this. I don't know how you act like but in your public life, you act like such a megalomaniac narcissist.
Well, that is
So that is the narcissist thing, like self-obsessed, but also self-loathing and not like really sure what's going on. Which I do think Woody is probably a narcissist, right? Like Because
no question.
Yeah, so he's like so that's a thing, right? Narcissists are like self-obsessed and self-loathing, and they're expressing their own, even if they don't. Because they can't really process it, because narcissists can't process it. But in their art, they express what about themselves they hate. Sometimes.
Yeah, I mean,
if they're good,
you're saying that so there is a self-awareness of it.
But he might not even be aware of it. Like
I guess it's like it's from his perspective.
Right.
So it's like you can be like, well, the movie's just his perspective.
Right.
And the movie itself could be saying something outside his perspective.
Sure.
But
or it could be writing, like Louis said. My good friend Louis. Louis said when he made the shows about himself 10 years ago, and maybe that was Woody Allen doing himself, because then at the end he's shown writing about the experience, right, and like making a new movie about
which
it.
I actually as a kid I was like, oh, that's so cool, it's showing how in art you kind of create things the way you wanted it. But then I'm watching that now, I'm like, but that isn't what he did. He does show her leave.
But, yeah.
Maybe I'm being too literal about it, but like he doesn't actually, like, he's like, you know how in art you want everything to work out the way it does in life, and I'm like, but this is your art, and in your art it doesn't work out.
Right.
So is that really true what you're saying?
Well, I think that's what made it kind of revolutionary at the time. time was all he was kind of
the
going.
First movie to make a sad ending.
Well, the first it's honestly still one of the only romantic comedies where it's like there's not a huge climactic breakup or anything. It's just they kind of grow apart. They're obviously still in love with each other when they break up, but it just doesn't work out, and they both know it can't. And then that's it. Then they just run into each other.
Yeah, you just run into each other.
It's just which is but it also is like a heartbreaking ending. Like I actually almost cried this time when I watched it.
It captures the melancholy of I mean, it's such a sad thing. The idea of a relationship is really sad. The idea of being with someone, getting to know them, and then breaking apart is so depressing. And
especially when it ends like that, where it's like, you obviously still care for. Like it would almost be a cleaner break if I don't know, someone cheated on them or something like that.
Right. It's just they just kind of grow apart, and you see him, and the last shot is so perfect with him. Just on that little, it almost looks like an island. He's just watching her walk away.
So fucking good.
I mean, and I don't want to look. It's still one of my favorite movies, and obviously, I think the melancholy of it works a lot. But it is interesting to see it from, and maybe it's just me changing. Maybe the movie's always aware that this is, or maybe the movie's saying. Ultimately, this movie is saying, maybe it's this. It's saying this is a guy who just can't change.
Yeah.
He really can't. And so it's looking at the melancholy of being in relationships.
When you can't change.
When you can't change.
Yeah.
Which is probably more of an accurate.
Yeah. When I first watched it, I was like, fuck, this poor guy. He just can't make it work out. But now as an adult, I'm like, I mean, this poor girl, good for her for getting out of this guy's fucking, this relationship, because she's being so nice to him and so accommodating, and he's being very controlling, honestly, in a way that's very off-putting.
He's controlling, and
it's from his own insecurities too,
right.
Which to Woody's credit, he makes it that very obvious. Like his own insecurities are what leads him to.
Right.
Like he says, you can't smoke weed because he's insecure about how he's not pleasing her with sex or whatever. So it's like
And that's the other interesting watching it. Like, wow, he's quite the sex fiend in this.
Only fucking 3 times a week. Why can't we do it twice a day? I'm like, Jesus, how horny are you, dude? Once a week was good for me.
He is like that. That is like a big part of it. Him just having this huge sex drive.
Yeah.
Which I forgot about.
Yeah.
I mean, it is interesting because it's like. There's never, I mean, he's sad the relationship ended, but there's no point where he goes, when she's like, let's go to that party. Sometimes in a relationship, you just have to go to the party if she wants to go to the party.
Yeah.
There's no moment in this where he does something he doesn't want to do.
You're right. He doesn't compromise. And I think that's exactly that's.
So at the end, he's like, it's so melancholy. But you're also like, well, you could have.
Yeah, you kind of fucked this whole thing up, dude.
You can't just refuse to just make her read your books, make her watch your movies.
Right.
And maybe in many ways, Annie Hall fucked me up because I kind of the same way romantic movies fuck up women with maybe it gave me this idea that relationships should be someone you try to make like yourself and then feel really depressed when they leave and then and then have a pessimistic view of life.
Yeah, which I think it nails if you have that life experience. You watch some movies and you are just kind of like even despite all this, I still found it very relatable and appealing and good. And I think because honestly, at the very end, the theme is that a lot of smart people can be fucking emotional toddlers.
Right.
And that's kind of what was also groundbreaking at the time. I think was movies about smart people. All the smart people are also very good at everything, and they were suave. And all this. This first movie was like, damn, this smart guy is a fucking idiot, which is very interesting.
Though on another level, though, it's also interesting that there is no actual he never cries. He's never lamenting.
It's all anxiety.
It's all anxiety.
Yeah.
And then when he tries to get her back, he is angry and stuff. But there is no there's not much vulnerability.
Yeah. I mean, the vulnerability, I guess, comes in those monologues, which is a genius device on his part.
Oh yeah.
And what is great about Annie Hall is it feels like Woody Allen's like, this is me, this is what I'm about, and he was just being authentic, and maybe he wasn't trying to make himself look any better. He was just like, here's what it is. Yeah. And
I also think I mean I mean, obviously a movie where they're just talking about the importance of change in a relationship is not a good movie.
Yeah.
But I guess I wonder if the movie is aware of it at all.
That's what I was most interested to discuss when I came over here. Is was he in on the fact that this guy sucks, or
is he capable of changing? Because at no point do they really even bring that up.
Right.
I do think and this is where maybe the movie is a little itself. Woody Allen is brilliant, and these sequences are amazing, and he's just one of the funniest people ever, and she's a great character, but maybe there is this emotional immaturity inherent in the movie,
right?
Which is that at the end, the whole concept is, and I really do think the movie itself, the message behind the movie is saying sometimes you have love and it falls apart, and that's just the way it is,
right?
But there is a part of me that I don't know if that's always the way it is.
Right. Which that probably, yeah. And I think that is true. I think that's maybe why it resonates with more people, or why hopefully someday I'll get married and it'll resonate with me in that way. Like, there's some hope for love.
Yeah, it's interesting. Your view changes with it. It's like back in the day, I was like, this is how all relationships are, tragic.
Yeah.
And I guess the fact that I'm getting married and that I'm okay with my girlfriend now falling asleep during it when I wouldn't have been before.
Yeah.
I can't be with
that shows
someone.
you've changed, which is good.
Yeah, I mean, it's like you can't, like, you have to accept that there's another person there.
Mm-hmm.
You can't just make, you know what I mean? Like, you have to accept that they have different interests and desires.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And it, I don't know. I guess, like, relationship is like work.
Right. Yeah.
There's no work in this.
No. Well, his work is just like, read this. Like,
yeah, it's work.
This.
Yeah, which is not. That's bad work.
Dragging her to a fucking 4-hour.
I mean, like, I used to be like that. I used to like.
Right.
When I was ever in love with a girl, I would get them. Actually, this goes back into my relationship with Kate. Back in the day, whenever I was in love with a girl who usually wasn't in love with me, she usually like a friend or something.
Right.
I'd get them the same book on their birthday, Revolutionary Road by Richard Yates.
Oh, yeah,
which is
yeah.
very. I don't know if you've read it.
Oh, is that's one they made in the Leo DiCaprio movie? Yeah.
It's a great book, but it's a very dark, depressing book about a relationship falling apart. And I give it to, it was my denial of death.
Right, yeah,
my sorrow and the pity.
Right.
But I gave it to every woman who I was into. So it's like they were all interchangeable.
Right.
But when I started dating Kate, my fiance, on our first, we first started dating around her birthday, and I got her a book, and I didn't get her that book. For the first time ever, I thought about what she liked, and I knew, and she really loves the 90s. She's very nostalgic for the 90s.
Yeah, yeah.
So I got her Chuck Klosterman's book about the 90s, which is a
nice.
great book.
Yeah.
And it was the first time I ever got a book that wasn't Revolution Road. The
Right.
first time I was thinking about what the other person might like.
Right.
And then it took her a year to fucking read it, and I'm still with her. Like, she didn't even.
Yeah.
I was getting a book that I thought was for her,
Right.
and she took a hell of a long time to read it. It's just like people, like, it's just like it's finally like trying to be with someone who's not gonna just be making. I'm just not making her into my image. You know what I mean?
Right.
Creating
Right.
this. It's a difference between narcissistic love and like actual love.
Right.
Or like, you know, love that's like an actual work you do.
Right. If you're in love, it matters more to try and make them happy than to be like almost kind of trying to impress them with like, look at me in this cool book.
Which you're impressing yourself.
You're impressing yourself.
It's a reflection. You're looking in a mirror. You're
right.
like, yeah, look how deep I am, and look how dark I am.
Yeah, which is how I was for a very in college and through my 20s. I was like very obsessed with like having cool opinions and like all that shit.
Well, it's also like, I think when I was younger, getting a girl I love to like be into this Dylan song I liked or something.
Yeah.
I think I hadn't created great art, but I thought if she was into my taste,
Mm-hmm.
it's like the closest thing to her into me as a great artist.
Right,
like,
right.
I can't create great art yet, but if she loves the art I love,
Right,
it like
yeah.
allows that to like, you know, and they never did. I
No.
remember this one time I was playing Dylan's Mississippi, which is one of my favorite songs from his later career. I was playing to this girl who I was like, you know, dating and really into, and I played her the song. And the thing about playing a song to someone that you love, it's always a bad idea, because when you love a song and then you play it to someone for the first time, it's very hard for someone to love a song the first time. Because for you, when you listen to it, every note,
time
encased in every note is the memory of the whole song.
Yeah,
So
right.
you're moved by every note because you have the memory of the whole song going into it. But she's just hearing it for the first time, so it's like it's different.
You have to process, especially Dylan. Dylan, you have to like fucking.
She wasn't even into Dylan.
Yeah.
But when you watch it with someone, you can't help but think they're being moved.
Right. Yeah.
So I
of
remember
course.
watching it, thinking she's like so moved by the lyrics, and then at the end she goes, "I didn't hear a word he said." It's like that's what happens with narcissistic love. You're just like, you know. And interestingly enough, his victory in this is that she takes someone to sorrow and pity. But that's not a good victory. A victory would be to be with someone else.
So that was another clue that he wasn't in on it. It's like, oh wow, she's so smart now, just like me. I did this.
Yeah, it is. It's tough. It is. There is this like I guess as you get older, there is a slight, and look, if this relationship I'm in falls apart, maybe I'll go back to Annie.
Right?
I don't think
yeah.
so.
No, but even I've gotten my heart broken badly, and like I still like watch Anyhow. I'm like, well, this guy's being kind of a dick. Like the best one was like when he was on the date with the Rolling Stone reporter.
Yeah,
he's like getting him backstage and telling all this cool stuff. He's like, ugh, who fucking cares?
By the way, that's the great convergence of my two biggest influence, Woody Allen and Bob Dylan.
Yeah.
And I know Woody Allen hates Dylan. He hates all rock and roll.
Right.
And I think I've only seen Dylan mention Woody Allen maybe in a book once. It's him performing there, but like seeing her,
right?
That means he had to at least know those lyrics. It was like the two great artists who've influenced me the most.
Yeah, that's funny.
The two Jews who have influenced me the most
at odds with each other.
But still, like in that same moment, he's being horrible.
It's like even if I was if I had a girl who like worked for Rolling Stone, I'd be like, that's awesome, or whatever the modern day equivalent is.
But also,
because back then Rolling Stone was really fucking cool back then.
And also Dylan is great. Rock and roll is great. It's like he's not. It's funny that his version of cool is like not being into rock and roll, but only being into jazz before 1938 or whatever.
Think that might be the one truly dated moment, because it was when rock and roll was like new, and he's like, oh, this fucking new music is
I know
so annoying.
He hates that shit. Well, he just likes fucking like old black jazz players.
Right, he just likes
I actually
jazz
hate
shit.
His musical taste. It's like never about the lyrics.
Right,
it's like all like just kind of like jazz, or like like maybe these very old. It was like before really sad lyrics,
like doo-wop shit. It's like all the beginning of Goodfellas songs.
People named like Jelly Roll doing trumpet kind of or whatever.
Well, there's a new Jelly Roll.
Oh, I fucking hate that guy.
I do too.
He's such a charlatan.
Now he's a real narcissist. I'll tell you that. Oh, brother, I'm so humble that I'm just selling out these. And a little guy like me, he could just sell out stadium. He does that humble brag shit.
I wrote a roast for Whitney Cumming. They were roasting him, and one of the roast things, I think she did it. I don't know. I wrote it for her. Like, it was like, play a game. Is this a line from his song or from a 13-year-old girl's diary? And it was just like each. And then she'd say,
that's
the line.
really funny.
Yeah.
That's great.
That's
great.
That is not songwriting. Anyway, that guy sucks. But,
what happened to being a wigger? All of a sudden, you're a country crooner.
It's African women.
He's a way. Yeah, that's right. We talked about that.
he's a rehab charlatan.
There we go. Yeah. He's not sober.
Recovery charlatan.
He's not sober. Everyone's like, wait, this guy isn't fucking sober. Like,
I know. The idea that a charlatan would be a reoccurring guest on Joe Rogan is really shocking.
That's crazy. Yeah, nothing gets by that guy.
but let's talk about it. Great artists who also might be charlatans. Woody Allen.
Yes.
Which I guess the baggage of his life also makes you look back and be like, this guy is a horrible. I mean, okay, so with the movie, I saw a Wikipedia quote. I wanted to I snapshot it just to show. I do think Woody Allen, even though one of the greatest.
I mean, he's probably made more good movies than almost anybody. But I agree. As much as I like to say separate the art from the artist, his movies are so personal that you kind of have to. It does factor in. Like, it doesn't like.
Right.
I did watch it in a different way this time than before.
So he's always mad when people take his movies personal, which is so hilarious.
It's like you looked into the camera.
You're a comedian.
you also named the character like Buddy Ballin. He's a New York comedian.
And you're dating Diane Keaton's actual name was like Annie.
Right.
It's like
and you play the same guy in every movie.
He gets mad when you. Like, I saw Ari Aster in an interview, and I love Ari Aster. And
Me too.
Like, what do you think about your movies being personal? And he's just like, yeah, of course. Mm-hmm. Every art is personal. That's the answer. You don't go,
I agree.
No, But
even in the most abstract shit, it's like, yeah, but it came from you and your life experiences, or at the very least, how you view things.
This is just an example of how shitty he is. This is from his Wikipedia. It talked about when he brought Marshall McLuhan in. At one point, he goes, some cast members were aggrieved at Allen's treatment of them. The director acted coldly towards McLuhan, who had to return from Canada for reshooting, and Mordecai Launer, who played Alvy's father, claimed that Allen never spoke to him.
Wow.
However, during the production, Allen began a 2-year relationship with Stacey Nelkin, who appears in a single scene. Wow. Doesn't talk to anyone except for the girl he wants to fuck.
Yeah, I mean, and the problem is he's not just being shy. The movie reveals he really thinks he's just too good to talk to anybody.
No, he is. Orson Welles had a great. Did you ever hear the Orson Welles quote about Woody Allen?
I haven't heard. It's been a while, so refresh my memory.
I'll look it up.
I remember he was like, "I hate that man."
It's fucking amazing. It's like it really goes because I do like. I am like disgusted like by Woody Allen's. Like Woody Allen in his memoir, which is very funny.
Yeah.
He brags about making a move on Sun Yi. He brags about it. He's like pretty classy of me. It's like how like.
Yeah. I mean, when in a lot of the personal life mess, which I do kind of think it's like whatever. It's not. I'm not going to weigh in on that, but at the very least, what was revealed in the last couple decades is just how big of a narcissist this guy is.
This is a quote by Orson Welles, who's like the greatest, my favorite, probably one of my favorite people ever. I hate Woody Allen physically. I dislike that kind of man. I can hardly bear to talk to him. He has the Chaplin disease, that particular combination of arrogance and timidity. That's the difference. Arrogance. People confuse timidity with not arrogance and timidity sets my teeth on edge. He is arrogant. Like all people with timid personalities.
And he's a Jew. He'll tell you something that you already knew. Your favorite movie sucks. Your favorite movie sucks. American Beauty or Forrest Gump. Your favorite movie sucks.